Hey guys, tonight we travel deep into the golden glow of myth and moonlight, into linen-wrapped tombs, jackal-headed gods, and oddly enough, a really bad case of misplaced keys. You are drifting between sleep and story now, hovering just above the shimmering sands of ancient Egypt. The wind tastes like frankincense. The stars are bright as scarab shells. Everything is quiet except for the flustered mutterings of one very important god. Anubis, Lord of the Dead, has lost his keys. Yep, those keys. The ones that unlock the gates to the Duat, the Egyptian underworld. The ones that open the doors to the Hall of Judgment, where the hearts of mortals are weighed against the feather of Ma'at. And if he doesn't find them soon, well, let's just say the dead are going to have a very long wait. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, drop your city and time in the comments. I love seeing where in the world you're listening from. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You open your eyes inside a dusty stone chamber glowing with golden lamplight. The walls are carved with scenes of gods and pharaohs, but one of them, Anubis, has stopped mid-ritual and is frantically patting down his shinded skirt. No, 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 not the urn again, he mutters, flipping the lid off a black canopic jar and sticking his arm inside elbow deep. No keys, just a very Sir Falcon spirit. He spins to face you, cloak swirling, eyes wide. You didn't see a golden keyring about yay big, jingling ominously and possibly radiating divine authority? You shake your head. Anubis groans and collapses onto a stone bench. Perfect, just perfect. The Duat is sealed shut. The souls are stacking up like papyrus scrolls in a novice scribe's study. You glance toward the corridor. Sure enough, a ghostly queue of translucent figures is stretching all the way down the hallway, some checking sundials, others floating listlessly, muttering about eternal delays. Now you'd think a god of the afterlife would have some cosmic solution here, maybe snap his fingers and conjure a replacement. But nope. Egyptian mythology is many things, but efficient? Not always. I had them last night, Anubis says, rubbing his temples. After I locked the final soul in for judgment. Then I came back to my quarters, hung up my cloak, fed the baboons. He pauses. Oh no, what if they ate them? You give him a skeptical look. Okay, they probably didn't. They're on a fig-only diet. But still, this is a disaster. You ask him what happens if the keys aren't found by dawn. He looks at you, eyes suddenly solemn. Then the gates don't open, the weighing doesn't happen. Chaos grows. You blink. Chaos? Like Apophis slithering through the void chaos, souls getting lost, reality unraveling, and paperwork, mountains of it. He shudders. You suggest retracing his steps. He nods. Good idea. Logical. Mortal brains are sometimes useful. So you follow him out of the chamber and into the winding corridors of the Temple of Passing. Every wall flickers with painted gods, and even the shadows seem sacred. You can smell aged linen, lotus oil, and the faintest whiff of panic. Your first stop, Anubis's private quarters. You pass a priestess asleep in a reading chair, clutching a half-translated spellbook. A jar of honey leaks slowly onto the floor. Anubis grumbles, stepping over it. The room is exactly what you'd expect from a jackal god. Orderly chaos. A massive black mirror reflects nothing but stars. A wall of scrolls sorted by deaths per dynasty. A bed carved to look like a sarcophagus, but covered in extremely soft blankets. He flips the bed sheets, lifts cushions, peeks behind a statue of Sekhmet, even rummages through a box labeled offerings, do not eat. Still nothing. This is absurd, he says. I've been doing this since before the pyramids had names. I do not lose things. You point out that he has lost them. Fair. A memory flickers in his eyes. Wait, last night, I stopped by the Hall of Judgment. Maybe I dropped them there. You both rush through the temple. The ghosts part like reeds in the Nile. Someone shouts, finally! And another moans, my death was faster than this. You ignore them. The Hall of Judgment is majestic, enormous stone pillars, golden scales, and a massive feather hovering under a spotlight that somehow exists in the underworld. Everything here is measured, sacred, precise. Except for the mood. Thoth, the ibis-headed scribe, is pacing in circles, writing furiously with a reed pen on what looks like an infinite scroll. We've had 6 misweighings this morning. 6! One man's heart floated. Floated! That doesn't even happen. He sees Anubis. Where? Have you been? Anubis holds up his hands. Lost my keys. Thoth glares. Again? You raise an eyebrow. Again? Thoth turns to you. Last time he lost them, the sun rose backwards, backwards. Anubis shrugs sheepishly. You search the hall, no keys under the feather. None behind the judgment dice. No jingling in the jars of truth. One ghost approaches shyly. I saw Sobek in here late last night. He was, playing with something shiny, Anubis groans. Of course, crocodile fingers. He straightens. Next stop the Nile. You both turn toward the temple gates, the weight of many worlds pushing behind you. You take one last look at the feather of Ma'at, hovering motionless in the air, waiting for balance. And off you go into the deep, myth-soaked night, chasing a crocodile god, lost keys, and maybe a little wisdom along the way. You and Anubis step out beneath a moonlit sky so full of stars it feels like you're walking under shattered gold. The air is warm and humid, buzzing faintly with the hum of the Nile and the distant flick of frog legs against lotus leaves. Somewhere out there, between reeds, riverbanks, and the occasional awkward ibis, is Sobek, the crocodile god, and hopefully the missing keys. Anubis squints toward the water. He's probably lounging in his shrine again. That overgrown lizard has no respect for boundaries or divine property. You raise an eyebrow. Isn't he a war god? And a fertility god? And a river guardian? And a snack hoarder? It's a lot. The two of you follow the sloping stone path down toward the Nile's edge. The sand is cool beneath your feet. Ghosts whisper behind you, still cued in spiritual limbo, some now playing games with papyrus cards. You reach the river and scan the horizon. Nothing. Then, splash! You both whip your heads toward a ripple near the lily clusters. A glint of gold bobs above the water, then disappears. Keys! Anubis hisses. That shiny little traitor has them! Without warning, he kicks off his sandals, hands you his cloak, and dives into the Nile like a divine cannonball. The splash soaks your tunic and nearly knocks over a heron. You wait, and wait. Then finally, swoosh! Anubis emerges like a soggy mythological submarine, dragging something massive and greenish behind him. Sobek. The crocodile god is laughing, deep, throaty bubbles rising from his snout. I might have borrowed them, he admits between snorts. They were just lying there, and you were off humming funeral hymns to that statue of yourself again. Anubis is not amused. You used them as a bottle opener. Sobek shrugs. I was thirsty, and that fermented lotus wine doesn't uncork itself. You step forward and point. Around Sobek's thick neck, tangled with reeds and mud, is a loop of keys, golden, slightly bent, and shimmering with divine glow. Right, says Anubis, cracking his knuckles. Hand them over. Sobek rolls his eyes, pulls them off, and hands them to you instead. Better let your mortal friend carry them. You've got a track record. You tuck the keys safely into a linen pouch and tie it tight. Suddenly, the water around you goes still, very still. Even the frogs stop croaking. Anubis straightens. That's not good. From upriver, a strange light pulses, deep red, flickering, as if fire is gliding across the water. Is that? You begin. Raz's boat, Anubis says, but not for long. He grabs your arm. We need to get back, now. You don't argue. The three of you dash along the riverbank, Sobek waddling behind, muttering, This is why I prefer turtles. Behind you, the crimson glow intensifies. You glance back and see something enormous slithering across the sky, a shadow darker than night itself, twisting, writhing, swallowing starlight. Apophis, Anubis whispers. That chaos serpent has been waiting for a weak moment, and my lost keys may have just been it. You clench the pouch tighter. Back at the Temple of Passing, ghosts are screaming, not in fear yet, but in sheer confusion. The line has broken. Some spirits are floating in spirals. Others have started looping through the ceiling. A few are just spinning like badly enchanted tops. Thoth meets you at the gate, papyrus scroll flapping in one hand, stylus in the other. The scales have started blinking, he says. Blinking. They don't blink, Anubis. You toss him the keys. He fumbles, then catches them. Get the gates open, Anubis orders. I'll stabilize the hall. You offer to help. After all, this is partly your fault now. Spiritually speaking, he nods. Then come with me. We'll start with Ma'at's feather. If it's reacting, the balance is off. You sprint into the Hall of Judgment. The great golden scales are trembling slightly. The feather of truth drifts side to side, no longer hovering. Anubis frowns. We need to re-anchor the balance. How? You ask. He gestures to a nearby wall, where ancient murals glow faintly with magical energy. We reset the myth, just for tonight, remind the story who's in charge. He draws a dagger of obsidian from his belt and slices the air. Light pours from the cut, and behind it, a different world emerges. Lush fields, endless sky, and an enormous bark sailing across an ocean of stars. You step through with him. This is no longer the temple. This is the myth space, the realm where Egyptian stories take form, and it's breaking. The sky above has fractures like shattered pottery. The boat of Ra sways dangerously as Apophis coils around it. You and Anubis leap onto the deck. The solar crew, beetles, baboons, even an oddly sassy goose, screech in panic. Anubis grabs the tiller. Keep the boat steady. You rush to the front. The serpent looms, fangs longer than spears, eyes glowing like coals. You're shaking, and then you remember. Stories run on belief, and belief runs on symbols. You dig into the linen pouch, pull out the keys, and lift them high. They shine. The serpent pauses. It recognizes them. You speak, not in your voice, but in the voice of someone who remembers how the world should be. By the gates of the Duat, by the weight of truth, by the order of Ma'at, return. The serpent screams and fades. The sky seals. Ra's boat glows again. Balance returns. Anubis turns to you, eyes wide. Not bad. You hand him the keys. Try not to lose them again. He smiles, slightly embarrassed. Yeah, maybe I'll get a chain. The sky in the myth space still trembles faintly, like a drumhead just struck. Though Apophis is gone for now, the ripples of his presence still ripple across the horizon, slivers of shadow sliding along the edges of Ra's golden bark. You and Anubis remain aboard, breath caught between awe and exhaustion. The solar crew resumes their duties, baboons polishing constellations, scarabs rolling spheres of starlight across the deck, and that same grumpy goose pacing like a supervisor who's seen too much. Anubis tucks the keys into his belt now, secured in a pouch that looks twice reinforced and warded with at least 6 curses against clumsiness. Lesson learned, he mutters. You glance over the edge of the boat. Beneath, the cosmic river glows with soft threads of memory, souls traveling the undercurrent toward judgment, like minnows toward the mouth of time. But some shimmer oddly, their light flickering. Wrong. Distorted. Something's still off, Anubis says, frowning. The souls, they're confused. And just then Ra himself turns to you. He's vast, radiant, with the head of a falcon and eyes like twin suns narrowed in weariness. The myth was interrupted, he says, voice like gravel wrapped in thunder. The cycle skipped. A story broken mid-sentence cannot finish cleanly. You blink. So we fix it? Ra nods. But first you must find where it fractured. Of course. No pressure. Anubis places a hand on your shoulder. We need to visit the record of moments. If anyone can pinpoint the exact myth-line fracture, it's, he sighs, Sekhmet. You raise an eyebrow. The lion goddess of war? And documentation, he says flatly. Don't let the bloodthirsty rep fool you. Her filing system is impeccable. The boat docks gently at the edge of a floating ziggurat made of stacked scrolls and obsidian slabs. The entrance is a stone archway flanked by hieroglyphs that flicker as you pass, rearranging themselves into a polite, "Please wipe your feet." Inside, the temperature drops to ancient library fridge. Scrolls spiral in towers, scribes with ibis heads flit between ladders. And in the center of it all stands Sekhmet, towering, armored, and holding a quill that could skewer a buffalo. She eyes Anubis. Lose your keys again? Hi, Sekhmet, he says sheepishly. This is my assistant. You're about to protest, but she waves you both forward. Follow me. We'll review the playback. She leads you to a curved wall of shimmering linen. With a flick of her tail, the fabric comes alive, playing back scenes from earlier. The moment the keys fell, the loop of Sobek's wine chugging, the precise second the balance wavered. Then it glitches. A jump, a skip in the thread, like someone dropped a stone into smooth water and made time burp. There, Sekhmet growls. The fracture, just before dawn, the hour of lesser warding. Anubis groans. That's when the lesser demons try sneaky stuff. We were busy trying to sort out the ghost who thought he was Cleopatra's cat. You sigh. What do we do now? Sekhmet turns. You enter the fracture. You stitch it shut. You restore it. And how do we do that, you ask? She hands you something small, round, and glowing. A fragment of starlight, frozen in amber. This is the telling stone. When you step into the moment, you narrate the truth, the real version. Speak it as it should have been. Anubis leans close. We'll enter the moment like editors fixing a corrupted page. Sekhmet rolls her eyes. You say editor, I say story paramedic. Either way. She slams her staff into the ground. The fabric wall peels open again, this time revealing a rippling hole in the scene. Not quite a doorway, more like a bubble caught mid-pop. You step through, and instantly you're elsewhere. It's dawn, barely. Pale pink light kisses the tips of palm trees. You stand in a courtyard near the Temple of Maat. The air smells like limestone dust and distant incense. But the scene is frozen. Time here has halted. Spirits float like paused particles, a scribe mid-sneeze, a jackal-faced guard half drawing his blade, and in the center, a tiny creature, a minor demon no bigger than a house cat, eyes wide with panic, clutching something round. One of the judgment scales counterweights. Anubis growls. This punk stole the weight. That's what started the glitch. You hold out the telling stone. It hums. Slowly you begin to speak. In this moment, the balance is held. The weight remains. The demon chooses peace, not theft. The story continues clean. The air shudders. The demon, still frozen, slowly puts the weight back. Time resumes. Dust swirls. The scribe sneezes. The guard finishes drawing his blade, then blinks confused. You step back into the bubble and fall. You tumble through myth, backwards, sideways, across pages, until you land with a whumph on the temple floor, clutching the stone. The scales now shine, balanced, whole. Anubis grins. Told you we could fix it. You groan. Can we nap now? He hesitates. One more stop. Of course, because nothing's ever simple in the afterlife. You blink the dust out of your eyes as Anubis hauls you up by the arm, already scanning the temple shadows for your next destination. The judgment scales shimmer behind you, humming with restored balance, but you've barely caught your breath when Anubis mutters, "We've fixed the fracture, but the reset has ripple effects. Before this myth fully reweaves itself, we need to talk to Thoth." You glance sideways. "The moon-headed guy who invented writing?" Anubis nods. "Also the registrar of cosmic cause and effect. Every myth that unravels leaves a paperwork trail." Of course it does. Somewhere, even in the afterlife, there's a divine DMV. You step outside into a stretch of silvery twilight. Odd, it was just dawn a second ago. The timeline is still flexing, trying to find its shape. The air smells of myrrh, parchment, and something faintly like disappointment. Anubis leads the way toward a colonnade lit by floating glyphs, each symbol pulsing softly like a firefly. You're heading for the Archive of Echoes. It's a tower that seems to grow taller the closer you get. You can't tell if it's an illusion or if the structure genuinely stretches itself in real time. By the time you reach the base, the spire vanishes into low clouds. Birds made of ink flap overhead. Some carry scrolls, others wear tiny librarian hats. You're not kidding. Stay polite, Anubis warns as you climb the stairs. Thoth has a zero-tolerance policy for chaos, loud chewing, or puns involving his ibis head. Noted, you whisper. At the top of the stairs, a set of carved doors part silently, revealing a massive chamber with shelves that spin, shift, and mutter to themselves. Scrolls glide between them like paper ghosts. At a crescent-shaped desk sits Thoth, ibis-headed, robes rippling with moonlight, spectacles perched delicately on his beak. He does not look up as you approach. "You tampered with the myth thread," he says flatly. "Do you know how many side stories you've rerouted?" Anubis coughs. "Technically, it was a patch. We restored an original state." "Original," Thoth repeats, finally raising his eyes, "is a slippery concept in mythology. Would you like me to show you the 37 alternate versions of that moment?" He waves his pen, and a shimmer of scenes flicker above you. Dozens of outcomes, timelines, branchings. In one, Anubis never loses the keys. In another, the judgment scales are stolen by a beetle mafia. In yet another, Sobek becomes chief of soul assessment and demands bribes and wine bottles. You try not to laugh. Thoth narrows his eyes. That one was not approved. Anubis steps forward. "We're not here to rewrite history. We're here to preserve the main myth path." Thoth clicks his beak. "Then you'll need this." He retrieves a strange object, a bronze compass with no needle, only a drop of starlight that bobs and shifts in its center. "This will guide you to the next mythic pressure point." You squint. "You mean another break?" Thoth nods. "When one thread is disturbed, others weaken. The balance has been restored, but belief is fragile. Symbols are fraying. The old gods are whispering themselves into silence. You feel the weight of it suddenly, that terrifying quiet idea that stories can die. Thoth continues. The compass will direct you to symbols in need of restoration. You must anchor them in memory again, through presence, attention, and participation. You glance at Anubis. We're myth EMTs now? Exactly, Thoth says. First stop, the Cavern of Forgotten Offerings. You don't like the sound of that. Anubis leads the way once more, now gripping the compass like a lifeline. You descend from the tower, stepping through layers of myth. The sky changes as you walk. One moment you're under starlight, the next beneath a blood-orange eclipse. A crocodile priest salutes you from a riverbank. Somewhere a harp plays itself in mourning. And then you're there. The Cavern of Forgotten Offerings lies beneath a collapsed shrine, half swallowed by desert sands. You duck under a low arch, brushing past hieroglyphs etched by trembling hands. Inside, the air turns thick and cool. You're surrounded by relics left behind, broken incense bowls, crumbled bread loaves, cracked alabaster jars, all covered in dust so old it smells of stillness itself. This, Anubis whispers, is where belief goes to decay. The compass flutters. You follow its glow to a crumbling statue, a once beautiful likeness of Bastet, the cat goddess, now barely recognizable. Her ears have chipped off, her smile faded. Around her, old offerings lie scattered and neglected. A single dried fish crumbles into flakes at your feet. The forgotten cannot protect, Anubis says, unless they're remembered. You step forward, unsure of what to do. Then it hits you. You kneel. You speak aloud, not in prayer, but in memory. Bastet, protector of Hoi, watcher of the vulnerable. You are loved. You are loved. The compass glows brighter. Around you, something shifts. A breeze stirs the dust. The statue's cracks seem to soften, its shape firming slightly. Not fully restored, but no longer fading. Anubis watches, nodding. Memory is a spell. You remain quiet for a beat, the echo of your words still hanging in the cavern. Will it last? You ask. Anubis doesn't answer. He's already looking at the compass again. Its light swings west, toward the horizon. Next, he murmurs. You groan. Do I at least get a snack break? I have dried figs, he offers, pulling them from a pouch with a dramatic flourish. You take one. Chew. Taste sacred raisin, he shrugs. They're eternal. And with that, you move again. Because myth waits for no one, but it can be nudged back into shape, one relic at a time. You follow Anubis out of the Cavern of Forgotten Offerings, your boots scuffing centuries of dust. The desert has shifted again, now bathed in cool twilight, stars hanging low and heavy like lanterns. The mythic compass flickers in Anubis's hand, the starlight inside pulsing to a new rhythm. Where to now? You ask, biting into a second fig. It still tastes like ancient raisins mixed with sandalwood. The vault of vanishing names, Anubis says, not looking up. You pause mid-chew. That sounds even worse than the last one. He snorts. Not if we get there in time. The sands shimmer as you walk, gold turning to blue, time folding like papyrus. The wind carries faint whispers, prayers half remembered, names never spoken aloud. You pass the skeleton of a boat buried nose first in the dunes, its prow carved with a face you almost recognize. The compass points you toward a small hill, where a single black obelisk leans drunkenly. A door has been carved into its base, plain, narrow, undecorated. No one wants you to find this place. That's kind of the point. Inside, the vault feels like a museum curated by entropy. Shelves sag under the weight of stone tablets, scrolls, bone tags, and clay jars, all inscribed with names, thousands of them. Some you recognize, Nefertiti, Imhotep, Akhenaten. Others are worn smooth, just traces of vowels trailing off into nothing. Anubis runs a finger across a crumbling cartouche. These are the forgotten. More forgotten stuff? You ask. This is starting to feel personal. It is, he replies, more serious now. A name remembered is a soul anchored. A name erased is a soul unmoored. You suddenly feel like you're not alone. Not in a spooky haunted house way, but in that deeper, ancient way. The way libraries sometimes feel full of people even when they're empty. People who don't want to be lost. Anubis stops at a blank pedestal. This was once a priestess named Charis. She healed crocodiles, saved lives. When the temple fell, her name was never written again. You blink. She deserves better. She does. And suddenly you know what you have to do. You kneel, again, this time with more purpose. You whisper the name aloud, Charis. The syllables feel old and fragile, but they hold. The compass responds instantly. Its light flares, then steadies. I don't get it, you say. Why don't the gods just remember everyone? Anubis crouches beside you. Even gods are shaped by belief. If mortals stop saying the names fade. The gods don't die, they drift. You look around. Hundreds, thousands of names waiting to drift. You glance at the compass. We can't save all of them. No, Anubis says, but even one matters. You rise, whispering another name at random, Sahura. The compass glows again. You half expect the walls to cheer. They don't, but the air feels less still. As you move deeper into the vault, the light of the compass grows stronger. Anubis halts in front of a sealed stone slab. This, he says, is where the High Archive ends. You peer at the slab. It's carved in layers of code, an ancient encryption only moon gods and overly dedicated scribes could love. So what's on the other side? Anubis hesitates. An erased story, one that was deliberately buried. A beat passes. You whisper, whose? Anubis doesn't answer. Instead, he produces a tiny chisel from his pouch and passes it to you. Stories etched in stone last longer. Etch something, anything, name, truth, joke, doesn't matter. You hesitate. But then, carefully, you carve 3 clumsy symbols, a heart, an ankh, and a single star. It's not perfect, but it's something. The compass flares brighter than ever, almost blinding. The slab groans, not opening, not yet, but softening, responding. Come on, Anubis says, already turning away. That was enough for now. Back outside, the stars look different. Closer. You hear a child's voice calling Karis, as if the memory is finding its way back into the wind. You walk in silence for a while, the compass gently pulsing with each step. So what now, you ask, stretching your sore arms. Now, Anubis says, we pay a visit to the House of Rewrites. Sounds relaxing, you deadpan. He doesn't smile. It's not. The walk grows harder. You're no longer moving across sand, but through something else. Dried ink, maybe. Symbols crawl beneath your feet, each step rewriting part of a path that didn't exist until you took it. The compass sways. Anubis, you say quietly, am I dreaming? He looks at you for a long moment. Yes and no. You're in the story now, and stories have rules. Great. Just what you needed. Dream logic. Ahead you see it, a squat, whitewashed building with hundreds of papyrus sheets nailed to the outside. Some are blank, some post like breathing skin, some are charred at the edges. The House of Rewrites. Inside, you'll meet a scribe who never blinks, a lioness with a broken quill, and a version of yourself you almost became. But you'll deal with that next. Right now, the compass dims and the quiet deepens. The House of Rewrites creaks when you push the door. Not loudly, more like the papyrus siding sighs at being disturbed. Inside, the walls shimmer with shifting script, some of it in your language, some of it older than the stars. The air smells like sandalwood ink and burnt linen, and the floor is soft beneath your feet, parchment, stacked and layered like rugs. Anubis steps in behind you, brushing his fingers along the nearest hanging scroll. Be polite, he says. Everything here listens. You're about to ask what he means when a figure appears at the far end of the room. Tall, bony, wearing an inky robe stitched with lines of golden text. Their eyes are wide, always open, never blinking, and shaped like hieroglyphs themselves. The archivist, Anubis whispers. Charmed, you mutter, though it's not clear if this figure has ears in the traditional sense. The archivist walks without sound, gliding toward you like a draft. In one hand, they hold a pen made from a lion's whisker. In the other, a scroll partially burned at the edge, still curling with phantom smoke. They extend the scroll towards you. One version of your ending, they say in a voice like the scraping of stylus on clay. You blink. Mine? Everything rewritten here is a version of something else. The version that could have been, or should have, or still might. Anubis is silent, watching. His jackal eyes are unreadable. The scroll unfurls. It shows you, older, wearing a crown of ibis feathers, holding a golden crook. You rule something. A city? A cult? Hard to say. That's not me, you say, trying to hand it back. Not yet, the archivist replies. But versions ripple. The scroll curls back into their palm. Most people never see their other threads. You glance at the walls again. Each sheet is someone's almost story. Some are scribbled with joy, children born, kingdoms spared. Others are darker, betrayals, fires, silence. So why am I here? The archivist tilts their head. To decide what not to be. You're about to respond, but the walls flutter like startled birds. And another figure appears, this one crouched near a low table. A lioness, her mane braided with beads, dips a broken quill into invisible ink. She doesn't look up. Sekhmet, Anubis says. She rewrites endings when the old ones break, the archivist adds. The lioness growls softly, eyes on her work. You step closer. The scroll she's working on shifts as you look. One moment it reads like a prophecy. The next, it's an apology. I don't know what I'm supposed to do here, you admit. You already are, the archivist says. Every choice writes a line, even hesitation. Anubis finally moves forward. We came for the record of lost keys. The archivist stiffens. That scroll has been troublesome. Let me guess, you say. It rewrites itself? Worse, it forgets itself. Entire paragraphs vanish, then return upside down. You sigh. Perfect. Sekhmet rises, handing you a scroll wrapped in linen and sealed with wax shaped like a jackal's eye. It thrums in your hands like a heartbeat. This will only show you what it wants, the lioness warns. Don't chase the symbols too far. They bite. You thank her, though you're not sure if she hears. She's already back at her scroll. As you and Anubis leave, the archivist calls after you. Remember, the story is not the same as the truth. You nod, tucking the sealed scroll into your satchel. Back outside, the air feels thicker, more real. The desert is gone, replaced by a long colonnade, moonlit and quiet, lined with statues of ibis-headed scribes. You walk in silence, the record warm against your side. Will this help us find your keys? You ask. Anubis doesn't answer directly. It's not about the keys anymore. You stop. Excuse me? They were never keys like you imagine, not metal, not for doors. You squint. Then what were they? Anubis turns to face you fully. Rituals, symbols, names of power. Without them, I can't perform the rites that keep the boundary between the living and the dead. You feel a chill trace your spine. So you're saying? I'm saying the veil is thinning, and something is watching. You both glance upward. The stars don't twinkle, they stare. The compass pulses once, harder than before. Then it goes completely still. You unroll the record of lost keys. It shows a city made of bone and shadow, a river of black ink, a key-shaped constellation. Then suddenly a sketchy figure, faint, half-finished, scribbling frantically. It's you. The drawing jerks, animates, and erases itself. Well, that's unsettling, you murmur. Anubis is already walking. We need to reach the threshold. Is that like a metaphor, or it's the place where breath stops and begins again? You try to keep up. Columns blur past you. The record glows, dimming with every step. At the end of the colonnade, a simple stone door waits. No lock, no handle, no instructions. Anubis places his hand against it. Nothing happens. Of course, he mutters. You step forward, holding up the scroll. Do I knock, or chant, or read it? You look down. The scroll is blank now. Read what? You ask, turning to him. Whatever you remember. The wind picks up. You close your eyes, take a breath, and speak. You speak the name of the crocodile-healing priestess, Charis. You speak of forgotten names and burning scrolls. You speak your own name. The door opens. Beyond it, only fog. After you, Anubis says. You glance at the compass. It flickers once, then goes dark. No going back. You step through. The fog closes behind you like a curtain pulled shut, swallowing the colonnade, the archivist, the stars, everything. The ground is gone, or rather, there's no clear sense of it. You're not walking so much as drifting, your feet brushing something that feels like velvet mist. Beside you, Anubis moves with practiced calm, his dark ears flicking now and then like antennae sensing sound beyond human reach. Where are we? You whisper. Because it feels like whispering is the only acceptable volume here. The in-between, he replies. Some call it the dream of the dead. Others call it the waiting place. You frown. And what do you call it? He pauses. Necessary. Shapes begin to form around you, shadows stretching and reforming into figures. Some look like people you once knew. Others look like fragments of paintings you've never seen, but somehow recognize. There's a woman with a throne balanced on her head, tears of ink dripping from her eyes. A man with the face of a falcon, sewing stars back into the sky. Are they real? You ask. Anubis hums thoughtfully. They're remembered. You don't know what that means exactly, but you nod anyway. Suddenly something grabs your ankle. You yelp and look down, only to see a tiny hand, no bigger than a fig, reaching up from the mist. A child's voice calls out, but the words are jumbled, reversed, like an incantation played backward. Anubis kneels. Name yourself, he says gently to the fog child. The hand recedes. What just happened, you ask, your pulse stammering. Fragments, he says. Thoughts not fully formed, souls who forgot their names. You glance around nervously. There are more now, hundreds, maybe thousands, flickering just beyond visibility. This place is thick with unfinished stories. Anubis leads you forward until you reach a small stone platform floating in the mist. On it, a mirror. Just a mirror. No frame. No pedestal. Just hovering there, waist height, surface perfectly still. Look, he says. Is this going to show me my future or my past or some existential metaphor about who I really am? Yes, he says simply. You groan but lean in. The mirror shows not you exactly, but a version of you, dressed in burial linens, your eyes closed, lips sewn shut with golden thread. Charming, you say. Then the image shifts. You're dancing, surrounded by musicians playing flutes made of bone, laughing, spinning, the golden thread gone. Next, you kneeling in front of a massive scale. On one side your heart, on the other a feather. Wait, you say, is this the scale? Anubis nods. The weighing of the heart, he explains. A soul's truth tested against Ma'at. And if it fails, you're devoured by Amit. You shiver. She's the crocodile lion hippo, right? She's the consequence, he replies. But she doesn't arrive unless invited. You glance back into the mirror. The scale wavers. Your heart tips, just slightly, heavier than the feather. You step away. Maybe we skip that part. Anubis shrugs. It's already part of you. You sit down on the edge of the platform, suddenly exhausted. So what now? He kneels beside you. Now we listen. To what? He taps your chest lightly. To what your heart hasn't said yet. Which is absurd. Your heart isn't a talker. Your heart beats, panics, skips, flutters, sure. But speak? And yet a sound begins. Faint at first, like wind rustling reeds. Then words. Yours. Not spoken but remembered. Things you've thought but never voiced. Regrets. Dreams. That weird obsession you had with becoming an archaeologist after watching The Mummy in 3rd grade. All of it. The platform trembles. Something's coming, Anubis says, standing up. You follow his gaze, and there, forming out of the mist, is a boat. Long and narrow, carved from a single tree trunk that never existed. On its prow sits a beetle, enormous, its shell glittering with tiny constellations. The boat is rowed by 3 faceless figures. They wear ankhs like necklaces and leave no ripples in the mist. The solar barge, Anubis murmurs. It only appears when the path continues. Is that good? He doesn't answer. Instead, he steps aboard and gestures for you to do the same. You hesitate. I've seen enough weird mirrors for one night. But your feet move. The boat launches the moment you sit. The mist parts like curtains, revealing stars. So many stars, you wonder how any darkness can survive them. You sail in silence, the oars whispering secrets with every stroke. After a while, Anubis pulls something from his robes. His keys, or what's left of them. A melted ring, a few charred teeth. One that looks chewed? They were hidden here, he says. I had to forget them in order to protect them. You blink. Wait, you had them the whole time? No, but I left them where only a forgotten version of me could find them. You stare at the twisted remains. So now what? Can they be fixed? Not as they were. The beetle on the prow clicks. The barge begins to rise. Not just float, but rise, like an elevator made of myths. The mist falls away, replaced by something glowing. A sky that isn't a sky, a place where language fails. You cling to the side. We're going up? To the threshold, Anubis confirms. Didn't we already go through that? Every ending has another door. You lean over and whisper to the beetle, please don't drop us. The beetle chirps. The light intensifies. You shield your eyes. When you open them again, you're no longer in the boat. You're standing before a gate. A colossal gate, built of starlight and obsidian, guarded by 2 figures with ibis heads and scrolls in their hands. This is it, Anubis says. Home? Possibly. You reach for the gate. It opens before you touch it. Inside, silence, not emptiness, just silence so deep it feels holy, and you step through. It's warm inside the gate. Not hot, not cold, just warm. The way sun feels through linen curtains in late afternoon, and it smells faintly of lotus and old parchment, as if someone's been pressing flowers between the pages of time. You step forward, your feet making no sound, not even a whisper. Anubis walks beside you, but says nothing now. There's a gravity to this space, as if even he knows words might wrinkle it. Around you, the walls aren't really walls. They shimmer and breathe, like the surface of a pond touched by wind. Occasionally an image forms, someone dancing, someone weeping, someone being born. You can't tell if you're witnessing memories or dreams or both. You pass a low stone bench where Thoth, the ibis-headed scribe of the gods, sits, scribbling furiously. The sound of his reed pen scratches like beetle legs on bark. He glances up as you pass and says, "You're late." "Sorry," you murmur. "We lost the keys." Thoth sighs through his beak and mutters something about chronological clutter before returning to his scroll. The ink glows faintly gold. You round another corner, and the floor becomes stars. Not a floor covered in stars. A floor made of stars. Galaxies coiled like shells under your feet. Moons drifting like lily pads. It's enough to make your knees wobbly, but Anubis steadies you with one clawed hand. "This is the archive of becoming," he says. "Every version of every soul that might be." You pause. "Wait, so all the could-haves, the almosts," he nods, "the ifs, the maybes, the dreams dismissed before they even had names." You look down and see yourself as a healer, wrapping linen around a sick child's wrist. Blink and you're a soldier, sand crusted in your teeth. Blink again, and you're laughing in a vineyard with purple-stained hands. "So many me's," you whisper. Anubis nods. "All still possible." "But I can't choose all of them." "No," he agrees, "but knowing they exist helps." You walk a little slower now, soaking in each possibility. A weaver, a priestess, a wanderer with no name, sleeping under the stars. Then, a chamber ahead, large, silent, lit by braziers that never burn out. This is where it's all been leading. The Hall of Records. You cross the threshold, and there it is, a table the size of a ship's deck, covered in papyrus scrolls and wax tablets. Shelves upon shelves upon shelves line the walls, each cubbyhole stuffed with bound reed volumes, with amulets, with carved memory stones. A few cats slink along the shelves like they own the place, which, if you had to guess, they probably do. Anubis gestures toward the center of the room. There, sitting on a pedestal of pink granite, is a box. Plain, sand-smoothed, unlocked. You glance at him. "Go ahead," he says. "It's yours." You lift the lid. Inside is not gold, not keys, not maps or glowing orbs or sacred geometry or whatever you were half hoping for. Just a linen bundle, old, frayed. You open it, and inside a set of bones, small, delicate. They're your bones, the ones you've shed over the years, childhood dreams, old fears, identities that no longer fit. "I don't understand," you say. Anubis is quiet a moment. Then this is what the journey shook loose. You reach in and lift a tiny finger bone. It crumbles to dust in your palm, but it doesn't feel sad. It feels released. "Do I leave them here?" If you want to carry something new, you must put something down. You pause, then gently place the bundle back in the box. It closes with a soft click. You feel lighter. From a side alcove, a wind stirs. You turn and see a narrow stairway curling upward made of moonstone. It glows faintly with each step. Anubis smiles faintly. This part you walk alone. You hesitate. "Will I see you again?" He shrugs. "I'm always at the threshold." You grip the railing, if it is a railing, more like braided silver light, and begin to climb. Each step is a heartbeat. Each turn in the staircase erases something heavy. Grief. Shame. That awkward thing you said in 8th grade. Gone. You emerge at the top into night, but not just any night. The first night. The primordial canvas of the world, before the first breath, before the first name. Nut, the sky goddess, stretches herself above you. Her body arched over the heavens, skin studded with stars. Her hair floats like ink in water. Her eyes are moons. She gazes down and says nothing. She doesn't need to. This is blessing enough. You lie down on a woven mat of palm fronds and silk, suddenly aware of how tired you are. The stars pulse in time with your breath. A breeze whispers across your face, smelling of cinnamon and myrrh and distant rain. Somewhere nearby, someone hums a lullaby older than language. You let your eyes close, and for the first time in a long time, you are not chasing anything, not proving anything, just here, held, becoming. And sleep doesn't hit you all at once. It drifts in like fog curling under a temple door, quiet, persistent, wrapping everything in a hush, the sort of hush that belongs in sacred spaces and between heartbeats. You lie beneath the goddess Nut, her arched silhouette stretching from horizon to horizon. She hums to herself, maybe to you, or maybe to the stars still waiting to be born. It doesn't matter. The sound settles over you like a blanket. And that's when something taps your toe. It's soft, polite, Tap, tap, you open one eye. Anubis is back. I know, he says with a wince. You just got comfortable. But there's one last thing. You sit up slowly. Seriously? He nods, sheepish. Turns out the keys weren't just lost, they were stolen. You blink. Stolen? By who? He looks around, then leans in like he's telling you the juiciest temple gossip. Sekhmet. Wait, the lion goddess of war and healing? Yep, that one. But why? Anubis sighs. Well, she said it was because I left her on Rid during the last eclipse. Honestly, it's hard to argue with a goddess who can bite the head off a hippo and stitch it back on before lunch. You rub your temples. Okay, so what now? We get them back. And just like that, you're standing again, your mat gone, the stars distant. The stairway behind you vanishes in a shimmer, and in its place, the golden sands of Sekhmet's territory. The desert here hums with heat. Mirage-like visions ripple across the dunes, some real, some not. A caravan trudges in the distance, the sound of ankle bells and braying donkeys echoing in the air. You smell roasted barley and something sharp, frankincense or trouble, or both. Step lightly, Anubis says. Sekhmet's not known for hospitality. You begin walking. The sand crunches beneath your feet, fine as flour. In the distance, you spot a cluster of sandstone statues, lion-headed, towering, watching. As you pass beneath them, their eyes seem to follow you. A low growl rumbles across the dunes. Then she appears. Sekhmet. She doesn't walk, she strides, the way fire moves across dry grass. Her mane glows with the light of 10 suns, her linen robes trimmed in red and bronze. Her eyes are pure amber, slitted and simmering. She carries a staff crowned with an ankh, and dangling from her belt, the keys. Dozens of them, ancient and mismatched, jingling like wind chimes at the edge of a sandstorm. Anubis clears his throat. Hey, Sekhmet, love what you've done with the place. She stops in front of you, towering and unimpressed. I don't remember inviting you, she says. Her voice is velvet and razors. You straighten your back. We need the keys. She narrows her eyes. Why? They belong to him, you say, gesturing at Anubis. And to the underworld, to the dead, to balance. Balance, she spits. You want balance? Go talk to Maat. I deal in extremes. Anubis tries a smile. Look, I get it. I've been unreliable, emotionally distant. I forgot your birthday. You forgot my rebirth day, she snarls. You whisper, wait, that's a thing. He shrugs. It is if she says it is. Sekhmet draws closer. The heat radiating off her makes your teeth ache. So, she says, eyes locked on yours, what are you willing to trade for the keys? You glance at Anubis. He shrugs. You look back at her. What do you want? Sekhmet leans in. Her breath smells like pomegranates and ash. I want a memory, she says. A memory? Yes. Something you don't want anymore. Something heavy. You pause. There's that time you were laughed at in front of the whole class. There's the way your heart clenched when someone left and didn't look back. There's the weight of regret from a choice you didn't make. You reach into your tunic, metaphorically, and pull one out. It's a memory of silence, of needing help, and not asking for it. You offer it to her. Sekhmet takes it, cradles it in one clawed hand, sniffs it like wine. Bittersweet, she murmurs, aged well. She flicks her fingers. One key flies from her belt and lands in your palm. Use it wisely, she says, and tell the jackal he still owes me dinner. Anubis bows low. You got it. And then she's gone, vanished in a burst of golden sand and leonine laughter. You turn the key over in your hand. It's old, ornate, cool to the touch. Ready? Anubis asks. You nod. The wind picks up. The sky darkens, not with clouds, but with memory, with stories too heavy to rise, now lifted like flocks of birds taking wing. You hold the key tight, its grooves pressing into your palm. Anubis gestures toward the east, where a door stands, tall, black, etched with hieroglyphs that shift and shimmer like beetle wings. That, he says, is the end, or maybe the beginning. You walk toward it, sand swirling around your feet, the key humming softly like it knows your name. The door looms taller the closer you get. Not just tall, ancient, the kind of tall that makes your neck ache and your stomach drop. Made of obsidian or something even older, it shimmers like beetle carapace, alive with hieroglyphs that writhe and settle depending on how you tilt your head. Some symbols whisper, others blink. You hold the key Anubis gave you. It hums faintly, warm in your hand, as though remembering its place in the lock. You glance at Anubis. Are you sure this leads back? He shrugs. Depends on your definition of back. Comforting. You insert the key. Click. The lock doesn't grind or clunk. It exhales like the door was holding its breath for centuries. It swings open slowly, revealing not a grand hall, not a staircase, not even fire or mist or judgment, just a corridor, plain stone, dim torchlight, a faint scent of ink and time. You step in, the air thickens instantly, not with heat or cold, but memory. It settles over your skin like dust. Each breath you take tastes like the past, papyrus, myrrh, something metallic like the edge of old coins. Anubis follows, adjusting his robes. Welcome to the Hall of Records. You blink. This is not what I expected. Yeah, most people expect more fire, maybe some screaming. Not gonna lie, I was picturing at least one lava pit. He laughed softly. No lava, just truth. The corridor bends, then opens into a vast archive. Scrolls stacked to the ceiling, woven baskets full of clay tablets, shelves sagging under the weight of memory. And walking between them, scribes. They're not human, not quite. Papery thin, like illustrations come to life. Their fingers are smudged with ink. Some wear ibis masks, others have eyes like spinning suns. They don't speak, they catalog. Each soul has a shelf, Anubis says, gesturing to the left. Every deed, every dream, every mistake, archived and weighed. You stare. So you have mine? He nods. And yours? Oh, definitely, a whole wall's worth, with color-coded regrets. You walk slowly between the aisles. The shelves hum as you pass, recognizing your presence. One scroll unfurls briefly, showing a memory you'd long buried, a promise broken under moonlight, a name whispered once then never again. You keep moving. At the end of the hall is a scale. You know it instantly, not because it's labeled, but because your heartbeat changes when you see it. The scale of Ma'at. One side holds a single white feather, delicate as morning. The other is waiting. Anubis turns to you. You know what comes next. You swallow. I thought I already passed all the tests. You did, but this isn't a test, it's a choice. He gestures to a nearby basket. Inside are your memories, the ones you're still carrying, the ones that ache. You glance at the scale again. Historians still argue, Anubis says softly, whether the scale weighs the soul or the conscience, whether it judges your deeds or your self-forgiveness. You don't move, he waits. Finally, you reach in and pull out a memory. It's small, sharp, feels heavier than it looks. The time you could have helped someone but didn't. Not out of cruelty, but fear. You place it on the scale. It doesn't tip. The feather stirs slightly, but the balance holds. Anubis smiles. Not bad. You add another, a whisper of jealousy, a snap judgment, the silence after someone said, I need you, and you froze. Still the feather floats steady. Finally, you reach for the last one. It's not a bad memory. It's a good one. Too good. A love you lost, not through malice or failure, just time. You hesitate. Anubis places a hand on your shoulder. You can keep that one. You nod, heart squeezing. Gently, you return it to the basket. The scale chimes, not like metal, like wind through reeds. Like a bird's call echoing through stone corridors. A door opens beyond the scale. Not dark this time, bright, blinding almost. You shield your eyes. You walk through alone, Anubis says, but you're never alone once you do. You glance back. Will I see you again? Sure. I'm everywhere people grieve, and everywhere they remember. You step toward the light. Each footstep feels like a heartbeat, like a drumbeat, like the turning of a page. As you pass through the door, the light wraps around you, not burning, just illuminating. You feel seen, not judged, just known. And then the world shifts. You're floating again, weightless. Above you, stars shimmer. Below you, a river curls through blackness like ink on vellum. You're not walking anymore. You're drifting, flying, maybe becoming something else. Lotus petals bloom beneath your fingertips. Your breath comes slow. The wind carries a name you've forgotten and now remember. You don't feel fear. You feel full. The journey is changing again, but you're ready because you've returned something borrowed. You've faced something buried. And you've kept one memory close, the one that matters, you, still here, still sacred. Not downward exactly, but inward, like folding through layers of yourself. The light fades gently, not extinguished but softened, and the stars above scatter into new constellations. Somewhere between sleep and memory, you land on stone. It's warm. You open your eyes and find yourself standing in an empty courtyard beneath a sky the color of old linen. Around you rise pillars etched with symbols, some familiar, some shifting too quickly to hold. The walls hum softly, like a drum beat too slow to dance to, too ancient to forget. And at the center, seated on a low stone bench, is a jackal. Not Anubis this time, just a jackal. Real, breathing, watching you with amber eyes. You sit across from it. Neither of you speaks. A breeze moves through the courtyard, carrying the scent of blue lotus and something more elusive, sandalwood. Rain on hot stone, the smell of something long buried being unearthed. The jackal rises and trots through an archway. You follow without question. The path winds through gardens half sunk in moonlight. Papyrus rustles. Frogs trill. Somewhere in the dark, a harp plucks a single note over and over. You move like a ghost, silent, unseen, half awake, and then you see her. A figure ahead, standing ankle deep in a reflecting pool. She wears a dress of translucent gold threads and starlight. Her skin is sky dark and dappled with constellations, and her hair flows upward into the heavens like an obsidian waterfall. Above her, the stars spin slowly, like they're leaning in to listen. Nut, the sky goddess. You stop walking. She turns to you. You expect grandeur. You get warmth. Her eyes are galaxies, yes, but they're kind. You've come far, she says. Her voice is the hush before dawn. You nod, not trusting your voice. She gestures to the pool. Everything reflects. Everything transforms. You look down. The surface shows your face, but not just your current one. Flickers of other versions ripple across the water. Older, younger, sadder, braver. Some look like you. Others barely resemble you. But they're all you. You see yourself as a child crying under a table. You see yourself much older, planting something in dry soil with trembling hands. You see yourself laughing so hard you fall out of frame. Nut kneels beside you. The soul is not a single shape. It's a constellation, a collection of stories. The trick is learning to see them all and not flinch. You whisper, "Is that why Anubis brought me here?" She smiles. "Anubis walks the dead. I cradle what's left after. Both are sacred." The jackal appears again, waiting silently. Nut places her palm over your heart. A warmth blooms, not burning, just radiant, like holding your hands near a fire you trust. "You're still unfolding," she says. She steps back, fades into the stars, not disappearing, just returning. The jackal leads you away from the pool into a new corridor of dark stone and flickering torchlight. You don't walk so much as drift, your feet barely touching the ground. You begin to hear voices, not loud, just present, not spoken aloud, but felt inside. Memories again, but this time not all yours. You feel a young scribe practicing glyphs, tongue poking from the corner of his mouth. You feel a widow pressing her lips to her husband's amulet before placing it on his chest. You feel a pharaoh laughing, wine dripping down his chin. This place remembers everyone. The jackal stops at a gate woven from reeds and bronze. No lock, no guards. You hesitate, then part it with your fingers and step through. And suddenly you're outside. The Nile, real, towering, alive. It rushes past, wide as a dream and deep as time. On its banks, priests light lanterns. Boats drift by, bearing statues and offerings. Music hums low, a reedy flute and the soft slap of sandals. This is not memory, not vision. This is now. Anubis waits on the shore, arms folded, tapping one foot like he's been here for hours. "Took you long enough," he says. You laugh. "Did you miss me?" He grins. "Please. I barely had time to do my nails." You glance back. The gate has vanished. "Where are we?" "The shore," he says. "Everyone passes through. Some just stay longer than others." He points across the water. There, just visible in the softening light, is a small island. Trees sway. A golden glow curls from the center. "Home?" you ask. He shrugs. "Or rest. Or your next lesson." Hard to say. You don't ask if he's coming. You already know. This is your crossing. You step into the boat. The priest rows without speaking. The water parts like silk, then stitches itself whole behind you. Above, a heron cries. Behind, Anubis lifts a hand once, then vanishes into the mist. And as you float forward, the sky begins to lighten. The boat glides without sound, not a single splash, no creak of oars, just the endless hush of water beneath wood and the subtle ripple of your passing. You sit still, watching the soft fog curl like incense along the riverbanks. The island ahead draws closer, not fast, not slow, just inevitably. The priest rowing you doesn't look up. He wears a linen tunic tied with faded reeds and a broad necklace of colored stone that clicks faintly each time he shifts his shoulders. His face is lined like weathered bark, and his eyes are older than anything should be. You think maybe he's not rowing at all. Maybe the boat is moving itself, and he's just here to witness. The air thickens slightly. warm, perfumed with lotus, and threaded through with the electric smell of something new. You glance up and realize the stars are dimming, not vanishing, just stepping back politely, making room, because morning is coming, and morning is loud, not in volume, but in presence. A rooster somewhere on the island cries once. A flock of ibises takes flight from a cypress and spirals upward. On the distant banks, villagers stir in their sleep. Someone knocks over a clay jar, swears softly, and goes back to dreaming. You smile. The boat noses into the soft reeds of the island. You step out, barefoot. The ground is warm. And then suddenly, you're alone. No priest, no boat. Just you and a winding path through tall golden grass. Dew sparkles on every blade like a million tiny stars practicing their daylight routine. You follow the path. It curves lazily, crossing under low trees and past quiet pools where frogs eye you like little green pharaohs. A turtle watches you pass and does absolutely nothing about it. Power move. Eventually, you reach a clearing. And there, sitting on a woven mat beneath a fig tree, is a woman with ink-stained fingers and a crooked smile. She waves you over without looking up from her scroll. "You made it," she says, like you're 5 minutes late to lunch. You sit. The mat is itchy. The figs are ripe. The woman is clearly a librarian, or at the very least someone who respects the dangerous magic of well-organized paperwork. "I'm Seshat," she says, goddess of writing, wisdom, architecture, and the occasional logistical miracle. She uncaps a reed pen and gestures to the stack of papyrus beside her. "Ready?" "Ready for what?" you ask. She chuckles. "To write it all down." And that's when you see what's on the scroll. It's your story. Not just tonight's journey, but all of it. Moments you've forgotten. Moments you haven't lived yet. Whole chapters scribbled in golden ink with little marginal doodles. Anubis yawning, Nut winking, the jackal stealing someone's bread roll. Seshat looks at you. You've wandered through death, memory, starlight, and mud. You've met gods, lost things, found more. Now comes the real work. You blink? Work? Yeah. You don't think you get to just keep all this without giving something back, do you? You open your mouth, close it, and nod slowly. Fair. She offers you a pen. It's surprisingly light, still wet with ink. You hesitate. What do I write? She shrugs. Anything. Everything. Start where it feels most true. So you write. You write about the temple ruins that only whisper after midnight, about the cracked key Anubis kept tucked behind his ear, about your own heartbeat echoing in Osiris's silent halls. The papyrus drinks every word. And as you write, something odd happens. The more you remember, the more real it becomes. Not the dusty, fragile kind of real. The shimmering, golden kind. The kind of real that matters. You don't notice the sun rising until the shadow of the fig tree shifts across your hand. Seshat leans back, chewing on a reed. Historians still argue whether any of this actually happened, but that's not really the point, is it? You glance at her. What is the point? She smiles gently. That you were here, that you chose to be here, and that you remembered. You stop writing. The pen sighs. The scroll rolls itself shut. Seshat tucks it into a wooden tube bound with copper wire. "I'll keep this safe." You nod. A soft breeze stirs the leaves. Somewhere behind you, a goat sneezes and a child laughs. Reality is tiptoeing back into the story. "You have to go soon," she says. "Most visitors don't stay past dawn. The longer you linger, the harder it is to get back." You look toward the path, but this time you don't want to follow it. You want to stay. But then again, you remember something Nut said. You're still unfolding. You stand. Seshat rises too and gives a mock bow. "Go well, traveler." You don't speak, just press your hand to your heart in thanks. She disappears, not vanishes, just steps sideways into myth. You're alone again, but not lonely. The reeds rustle, the air stirs, and the grass parts gently as a new path opens, not back to the boat, not even back to the river, just forward, toward the edge of the island where the sky is soft and pink and full of possibility. You begin walking, and every step writes itself behind you in light. The horizon is barely awake, just a smear of blush where the sky touches the water. You walk slowly, barefoot through soft earth and tiny wildflowers, the scroll's echo still whispering behind your ribs. Each breath feels deliberate now, as though the world has quieted just to listen. You're not sure how long you've been walking. There's no clock here, no sand trickling through a glass timer, just your own steady footsteps and the gentle shift of light as the day prepares to stretch. And then you spot it. Perched atop a hill like a stubborn beetle with opinions, there's a tiny stone shrine. It's not grand, not gilded, not even particularly clean, but it radiates that heavy hush, that museum quiet kind of presence. You climb the hill, brushing past sun-warmed grass and sleepy moths. At the top, the door is already open. Inside, chaos. Scrolls everywhere. Broken pots stacked like a game of divine Jenga. Bits of parchment with ancient doodles. Is that Thoth riding a duck? And one very flustered god on hands and knees, muttering to himself. Anubis, the man, the myth, the professional overscheduler. And yes, he's still wearing the same slightly too formal robes from your earlier adventure. Only now they're dusty, rumpled, and one sleeve is dragging through a dish of what might be fig jam or embalming paste. He looks up as you enter. Oh, thank Ra. You're still here. You blink. Were you expecting someone else? Anubis sighs, flops onto a low bench, and rubs his temples. No, just hoping this wasn't one of those dreams where everything resets and I have to find the keys again. You chuckle. Still lost? He holds up the key ring, the one he swore he'd never misplace again. Only now it has just one key. The others are missing, he groans. Again, vanished, evaporated, possibly turned into breadsticks. I don't know anymore. You sit beside him, watching the morning light slant through a crack in the stone. So what do you need me for? Anubis peers at you with exaggerated exhaustion, moral support, and possibly another set of eyes, or divine insight, or whatever it is you've got going on. You shrug. Mostly sarcasm and lingering moonlight. He grins. That'll do. Together you start searching. And okay, maybe searching is a generous word. It's more like rummaging. There's a lot of lifting scrolls, poking suspicious bundles, and knocking over small clay statues that seem way too judgmental for gods of silence. Historians still argue whether this shrine was ever part of the formal pantheon. Anubis says conversationally as he unearths a box labeled, "Definitely not important, definitely important." You squint at the clutter. What was this place? Storage, study, sanctuary, depends who you ask. He pauses, holding up a fork-shaped artifact. Or maybe it's just my garage. Eventually, behind a pile of crumbling amphora and an actual living cat who is absolutely not moving, you find a small wooden chest. The chest is simple, no carving, no inlay, just a sun-shaped clasp. Anubis kneels in front of it. This is it. You crouch beside him. You sure? About as sure as I am that Nut never forgets birthdays. He flashes a grin. Ready? You nod. He lifts the lid. Inside, keys. Not just metal keys, though those glint among the pile like sleepy stars, but symbolic keys. Papyrus tags, bone tokens, a tiny sculpture of a door. Each one thrums with meaning. These aren't just for locks, Anubis says quietly. They're for thresholds, choices, moments. You understand now. These are the keys to rituals, to passages, to the parts of the world where the sacred and the ordinary brush shoulders for a breath. Anubis hands you one. It's carved from ivory and shaped like a lotus seed pod. The moment you touch it, warmth spreads up your arm like honey and tea. This one's yours, he says. For what? For whatever you need it to be. You hold the key, uncertain. Anubis smiles. You'll know when to use it. There's a long silence. You both just sit there, morning pressing in gently, not rushing. He leans back, resting his head on a rolled-up scroll. You're good at this, you know? At what? Showing up, listening, paying attention. You shrug. I've had practice. He closes his eyes. Keep going. And you do. Back outside, the shrine behind you, the hill beneath your feet, the key in your palm. You walk until the world feels light again, until the grass gives way to sand, until the wind smells like new stories, because somewhere in the distance, beyond time and temples and beetles and gods who lose their keys, something is waiting. A door, a moment, and now you hold the key. The key is warm in your palm, as though it remembers being used. Or maybe it's just soaking in your hope like sun through linen. You don't know how long you've been walking now, only that the light is changing again. Less like morning, more like a soft bronze dusk, the kind of hour that makes you nostalgic for things you never actually lived through. There's a hush in the air, the quiet that follows revelation. You follow it, past rows of palm trees swaying like they're stretching after a long nap, past a cluster of ibises watching you from a low wall, judging your posture, past a half-buried mosaic that might depict Hathor doing the world's oldest cartwheel, and then you see it, a door, just standing there in the middle of the sands. No frame, No hinges, just the door, upright like a dream someone forgot to finish. It's made of polished cedarwood, inlaid with lapis stars. No sign, no lock, no handle. Except that key in your hand hums louder. An invitation. You walk slowly toward it, and the sand shifts oddly underfoot, like it's remembering other feet that walked this path before you. As you approach the door, the wind picks up. But it's not just air, it carries whispers. Soft and layered, like old papyrus pages fluttering in a library breeze. You hear names, your own, maybe, and others, too many to catch. You hold the key to the place where all stories cross. Not heaven, not the afterlife, just the archive between. When you press the ivory lotus key to the surface, the door opens with no creak, no drama, just silence, like something holding its breath. Inside, not a room, but a corridor of stars. The floor glows faintly with constellations you don't quite recognize. The walls shimmer with translucent hieroglyphs, each one flickering between languages, Sumerian, Greek, something older than both. A figure steps out from the dark. She is tall, composed entirely of soft light and woven shadow. Her gown is stitched with constellations. Her arms curve over her head like the sky itself. Nut? She nods in greeting, and there's something motherly in it, but also something vast. You're a speck, and yet fully seen. You open your mouth to speak, but she presses a finger to her lips. No need. She steps aside, and you realize she is not here to teach or guide or test. She's here to witness, to hold open the veil just this once for a traveler with the right key. You move forward. Each step down the corridor is a memory, yours, others, the world's. A scribe writing in darkness by oil lamp, a child releasing a paper boat into the Nile, a cat curled in a sunbeam beside a goddess's sandals, bits of life, archived forever in time's quiet pantry. Historians still argue whether Nut was truly worshipped as the passage between day and night, or as something deeper, an embodiment of every threshold, from waking to sleep, breath to silence, birth to beyond. But you understand now, she is the between, the inhale before the first word, the pause after the last. You pause too. There's a shelf ahead, low and golden. Upon it, a scroll, blank. You reach for it instinctively. The parchment is cool but pulsing slightly, alive in a way no paper should be. You glance back, but Nut is gone now. Or perhaps she never was. It's just you, the scroll, the corridor, and a brush. You dip it in the ink pot that appears beside the scroll, because of course it does, and you begin to write. You don't know the words. You don't even think them. They pour through you like river water following old channels. They tell your story, not just this journey, all of it. What it felt like to stand on sacred ground in borrowed sandals, the weight of Anubis's frustration, the rhythm of your own footsteps echoing off star-etched stone, the ridiculous beetle, the lost keys, the finding, and somewhere in the telling the scroll fills. You place it gently back on the shelf. It glows for a moment, then tucks itself into a slot that wasn't there a second ago. The corridor shifts again. New lights blink awake. Doors open, far off. You're not done, it seems. There are more keys to find, more stories to carry. But for now, you turn. Step back through the cedar door. The sands are cooling under your feet. The wind hums with cicadas and nighttime prayers. You're not the same. You're not heavier. You're not lighter. You're just more. You don't rush. There's no need. The door vanishes behind you with the softness of fog. Up ahead in the growing twilight, a lantern waits. Inside it, not fire, but a single golden feather. You smile, then keep walking. The lantern swings gently as you walk, its golden feather flickering like a heartbeat. You're not entirely sure who left it for you, but it doesn't feel like a trap. It feels like a nod from the universe. Or maybe from Thoth, that smirking scribe god with too many secrets and a suspiciously good sense of timing. Either way, you carry it. The dunes are quiet now, and the stars overhead blink into place one by one like someone's lighting an ancient marquee. The horizon glows with the soft indigo of just before night, and the air smells faintly of incense and distant rain. You're heading back. Where back is exactly, you're not sure, but your feet seem to know. They carry you past the temple ruins again, this time half lit by the stars overhead and the lantern in your hand. A baboon statue winks at you as you pass. Rude, frankly, but you forgive it. You've changed. It's subtle. You're not suddenly glowing, not suddenly all-knowing. You still probably couldn't recite all 42 negative confessions without peeking. But there's a quiet inside you now, a space you didn't realize was cluttered before. You step past a fallen obelisk. There's a palm tree that wasn't there earlier. Or maybe it was, and you're just seeing it properly now. Either way, a hawk rustles its feathers in the branches above, watching you the way Horus sometimes does, like a disappointed uncle who's secretly proud. Ahead, Anubis waits. Of course he does. He's sitting on a crumbled wall, like he's been there forever. One foot swinging slightly, ears perked, expression unreadable. You offer the key before he even asks. He doesn't take it at first. Instead, he looks at you, longer than is comfortable. Then, with a tilt of his jackal head, he finally reaches out and plucks the key from your hand. He turns it over, inspecting the lotus carving, the warm gleam of the ivory, the faint smudge where your thumb rested. You found it, he says, 3 words, but somehow they carry the weight of stars. You nod. He tucks the key somewhere into the folds of his linen belt, wherever ancient gods keep their metaphysical accessories. Then he stands. Come on, he says, you'll want to see this. You follow. Together, you walk toward a rise in the sand. It doesn't look like much, just a small dune, but as you crest it, the world opens beneath you. A river. Not the Nile exactly, but maybe a memory of it. Or a dream. It glows with its own light, soft and amber, like melted sunlight from 100 dawns. Boats drift along it. No sails, no paddles, just quiet movement. Each one carries a different soul, wrapped gently in linen, adorned with tiny lotus blossoms. Some hum with music. Some sparkle faintly, like they've swallowed bits of the sky. You're watching the journey of the departed. But not in sorrow. There's peace here. Balance. Ma'at would approve, though she'd probably complain about the logistics. Anubis watches with you, silent. Historians still argue whether he was ever a true god of death or merely a guide, a divine usher with a knack for calming nerves and locking doors. But here in this moment, it's obvious. He is the friend of the lost, and tonight, you were one of them. He doesn't say goodbye. He just nods. The kind of nod that means you'll be okay. And then he steps away, into shadow, into starlight, into wherever jackal gods go when their work is done. You stay for a while longer, watching the boats drift past, counting the stars reflected in their wake. Eventually you turn. The lantern's feather flickers once more, then dims, tucking its light away for the next time. You walk back through the dunes, not retracing steps, but making new ones. The air thickens with sleep. Your eyelids dip. The sand beneath your feet grows softer, warmer, like sheets tucked just right. And you feel it. That lull. That moment where story becomes dream, where myth becomes memory, where you, weary traveler, are finally allowed to rest. Let the breath ease out of you like honey. Let your limbs go slack. Let your thoughts spiral inward like tiny galaxies curling into sleep. The night is watching over you. Anubis is off duty. Nut is humming lullabies to the stars. And your story is safe, tucked in scrolls, nestled on golden shelves in corridors of forever. Nothing more to chase tonight. Nothing more to prove. You are sacred. You are soothed. You are home. And now, as everything softens, your limbs, your breathing, your mind, let the echo of this strange, winding journey wrap around you like linen. Not tight, not heavy, just a quiet cocoon spun from moonlight and myth. Let your thoughts become slower, longer, rounder. Let them float. That beetle you followed back in the beginning, he's probably halfway to another story by now. Maybe he'll misplace a pyramid next, or accidentally reroute the Nile. Anubis? He's probably sipping date wine somewhere with Bastet, trading sarcastic complaints about the living. And you've earned this stillness. Let the world dim. Let the last flickers of lantern light fade. You are held by ancient things, trusted by impossible creatures. You returned what was lost and gained a little wonder in return. You are not just dreaming, you are dreaming well. Sleep then. Let the temples crumble behind you. Let the stars archive this night. Let the sky carry you forward, not with urgency, but with ease. You are not behind. You are not late. You are exactly where you should be, breathing with the rhythm of old gods, curled into the warmth of bedtime, whole and curious and starlit. The sun will rise again. You don't have to pull it. You just have to be here, still and soft, sacred and safe. Sleep well.